welcome back to the Boropolis podcast. As always, I am joined with Nathan, and we have a two-game week to discuss. Of course, first, in typical Boro fashion, we do unfortunately have to talk about that slap back down to earth in the shape of a defeat to Blackburn on Wednesday evening. And then also, of course, we are going to discuss yesterday's 3-1 win over Ryan Giles FC. I'm joking. We played Hull for anyone that didn't already know. Of course, you already know that, though. Nathan, how are you? Because I know before we sort of get into the world of Boro, we do have our own lives going on, and kind of in some sort of weird alternate reality, if you want to call it that. You were actually at the Sunderland game on Friday night.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm all right. Was pleased that the game at Bramall Lane on Friday night went the way it did. I was sat in the home end, complimentary tickets. Thanks, Christian, for those. Yeah, a pretty good game on Friday night for the neutral. Two red cards, a penalty save, and a late goal for Sheffield United, and some very moody Mackems on the way back up north on Saturday morning as well. But yeah, the more important things to discuss are Middlesbrough FC. We talked last week glowingly about our return from the international break. 6 goals at Oxford. Could we hit 7 in midweek? No, we drew a blank, and that was partly down to some illness that had struck through the squad. We heard about this on Monday. We didn't know which players were struck down with it. As it grew closer to the game, it became apparent that one of those was Finn Azaz, and then an hour before kick-off, also Delano Bergzorg. However, we did speak last week. I thought Bergzorg would come out the team and McGree would replace him. That was the case, but Azaz coming out the team after his sort of player of the week for the
Well,
division.
team of the week in the on Ultimate Team. If any
Mm.
FIFA players are listening,
Yeah,
that never happens. You know when Borough have played well because, and I know every fan probably thinks the same, but we never ever get players in team of the week. And to have got one, he must have done something pretty decent.
I know. Yeah, and the other one who scored a hat trick didn't get one.
Yeah,
Um,
it didn't. It made a little sense that, but yeah. As you say, obviously we were aware. Well, not necessarily us, but I think most Middlesbrough fans were aware just from whispers on social medias and group chats and all that kind of stuff that there was going to be sort of. I think, to be honest, I was almost expecting a little bit of a sort of worse turnout in terms of the squad. I think the arrivals video that got put on, there was like a couple of academy lads in there, and I thought initially, and you messaged me the same, this isn't looking pretty. And I think Middlesbrough perhaps sort of played into the supporters and potentially Blackburn's hands with that, almost alluding to some probably a little bit of a worse sort of squad or players available than perhaps actually what they did have available. But yeah, as you say, the two real headlines were, of course, Azaz and Bergsorg not being available. And I'm not going to lie, I just thought last week that Seny Dieng had a hangover after his birthday because it was his birthday on the Saturday, and I thought he's definitely had a few drinks and just didn't quite make it. But no, I mean, he didn't continue on Wednesday night, and obviously he didn't continue yesterday. So fair play to Seny. He is actually quite clearly ill, so hopefully he's on the mend, and we'll see him back shortly. But yes, I think, to be honest, although it's the easy point that you'll look straight towards in terms of what went wrong on Wednesday night, I think in fairness, a lot of the discussion and a lot of everyone's takeaways from that game was, Jesus Christ, we missed Finn Azaz.
yeah, we did. We missed the link between sort of midfield and attack. Yeah, I think everyone saw on Wednesday night what he brings to the team, and when you take him out of it and you don't have a direct replacement available as an attacking midfielder who can get on the half turn and play balls in behind to the likes of Dork or Laila, it sort of plays into the opposition's hands really because we didn't have a whole lot. Doak wasn't as free and available because of the lack of interest in the attacking midfielder. Conway, look, tries his best in that role, but he's not a number 10 or a withdrawn striker. We saw that earlier on in the season when that experiment was used, but at the minute we don't have an adequate replacement to play in that 10. I think that the one that you could sort of make a case for was Gilbert to play in that role, but obviously just coming back from an injury that's kept him out for a couple of months, you don't want to throw him in at the deep end. But yeah, we didn't create a, a whole host of chances in the game. One in the first half was Neto put one on Latilat's head, which he nodded over. But I think if we're totally honest, we were lucky to be going into the second half with with 11 men on the pitch. McGree should be sent off for his tackle, and then shortly after he gets a dead leg from that tackle, tries to continue, can't do so, is taken off. Micah Hamilton comes on. Boro have to change their system round. Instead of your sort of left-sided player inverting and allowing Borges to provide the width on the left side, it was Hamilton providing the width and Borges was inverting a little bit more. And I think it just looked
It
a
didn't
little
look good.
it looked unorthodox, doesn't it? I don't think both players cover themselves in glory, really, on that left side on Wednesday night. Hamilton just sort of trying to find his feet, obviously had limited game time, really struggled in the game, looked short of confidence, and Borges just looked unnatural, having to invert inside. It wasn't one of our better displays. Blackburn came with the blueprint of sit in and stay in the game, see yourself to 70 minutes or so. You'll hopefully have the chance on the break to create something. And look, they score one offside goal, which is rightfully disallowed, and the next one is wrongfully allowed to stand. Really good play from them in fairness, but Dominic Hyam's offside and the linesman, he's in a great position to see it, and for whatever reason, he doesn't put his flag up. And at the end of the day, it's a 0-0 game. They didn't create a whole lot. We didn't create a whole lot. A point would have been fair for both teams, but they come away with it with 3 points.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of what you've said there. I agree in the instance of Riley McGree. I think he's fortunate to stay on the pitch. And that creates its own discussion. Anyone that listens to this podcast knows how much I absolutely adore Riley McGree for the footballer. But as far as I'm concerned, and you often see it, the same talk with Reece James, and I know it's not to the same extent, but the best ability is availability. And more often than not, unfortunately, Riley McGree is not available. Look, it's unfortunate. It can happen in a tackle, but it just seems like you kind of get 2 games out of Riley McGree, and then that's that for at least a couple of weeks. And it's so annoying because, look, I touched on it last week. I think Bergsorg is proving now that he's more than an adequate replacement for Riley McGree. But I think we've seen over time that Middlesbrough are a better team with Riley McGree in it. He offers you so much in terms of, as you say, the Middlesbrough's kind of go-to tactic is that of a double 10. He gets the best out of Finn Azaz. He gets the best out of Neto Borges. And yeah, look, Middlesbrough are a better team, and I don't want to dwell on that, but I think I don't know, on Wednesday night for the first time, I did think, and look, hopefully it's not as bad as kind of what's first feared, because it always worries me when Carrick sort of doesn't really give an extent as to sort of how long they think it might be. And judging from the quotes that have come out today, it doesn't seem like McGree's going to be one that certainly won't be involved on Friday night. And if he is, I'll be absolutely amazed, to be honest. But yeah, it's incredibly frustrating in terms of how that impacted the game. Boro weren't offering a lot, even with McGree on the pitch, but they were still offering more than when Hamilton come onto the pitch. in terms of the whole conversation around Hamilton, look, I'm not going to bash a young lad who is in his first senior season of football, but I think it would be fair to say that he doesn't look ready. Obviously, there's additional context that you can put around that and make it a little bit more understandable as to why he looks so far off the pace. He had a major injury not so long ago, pretty much only, well, before this season was kind of coming back from almost a year out of football. He made, I think, one senior appearance and perhaps a handful of sub appearances for Manchester City. Look, I think with Micah Hamilton, he certainly looks like a player that is going to need a run of games. And at the moment, he's not going to get that at Middlesbrough. I would be quite happy if Micah Hamilton did go out and get himself just some games. And whether that might be a sort of a championship team lower down the table, I'm not sure. I don't think that's probably the type of player that a team sort of fighting for their lives are going to be looking at. Perhaps someone sort of pressing on in League One might be a good fit. Yeah, I look at Micah Hamilton, and I've made this comparison before. He really reminds me of Jadon Sancho, just in terms of his sort of what he offers and his almost his skill set. I think he's more of a winger, and not necessarily in the same mould of McGree. They're very different in that sense. But Micah Hamilton, is not direct at all, really. It's very sort of rare that he kind of faces up the fullback and tries to go beyond. He almost, like Sancho, really sort of neat and tidy, shows some good touches, is a little bit sort of skillful. But other than that, he doesn't, as of yet, and of course he might be struggling with fitness, it might be a confidence issue. I just haven't sort of kind of fully worked out what kind of player he is. And I think some of the criticism that I saw to sort of scapegoat Micah Hamilton for Boro's performance is crazy, to be honest. Look, it wasn't a great performance, but there was plenty of us. I know you can, I'm not comparing the sort of performances by any stretch, but Ben Doak was quiet. Harry Pickering, I don't want to say sort of had him locked up, but it was quiet by all accounts from Ben Doak and his standards. I know he rattles the post late on in the game, but yeah, he was quiet. Tommy Conway was, and that's, because of as you touched on, he's not a natural number 10. He was playing like a striker that had been told to try and play as a number 10, as you say. Just not really receiving the ball on the back foot, not being aware of his surroundings. His sort of initial instinct when he's taking a touch is to sort of take a touch forwards to then sort of spin and almost play like a striker with his back to goal and try and sort of take a touch and then go out wide or lay it back off to a midfielder. And I think that was more so the reason that we sort of faltered on Wednesday night. It was the lack of link between midfield and attack, really. And obviously, Finn he certainly does offer you that. And look, even Finn when he's not at his best, does offer you some of that. But especially Finn in the form that he's currently in, of course you're going to miss a player like that. Just in terms of other talking points, I actually thought that the midfield was, I don't want to say sort of sluggish or too slow. It wasn't for the want of trying, but I just felt it was a bit lethargic, a bit slow. There was no real intensity in the midfield. And to be honest, individually or with a pair that's full of bundles of energy, I think it's okay. The House and Barlaser dynamic, I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of at all. Barlaser's got his own qualities, Howson's got his own qualities, but I think it's going to kind of, if they're available, it would have to be one of the two and Hayden Hackney or one of the two and Morris. Howson, look, I know I said last week that he's sort of never going to age and he's just going to get better and better with age. I think we're now really seeing those reduced minutes. And it's not, I don't think Howson was horrific by any stretch, but I think you're sort of now seeing that Barlaser gets picked ahead of him yesterday and the sort of, and it's not necessarily something that I massively disagreed with yesterday. I thought Barlaser was good in sort of phases during yesterday's game. You often see his passing ability during games. But yeah, I thought other than the sort of lack of link between midfield and attack, that was one sort of, I don't want to say the game was won and lost, because ultimately the game was lost from an offside goal. We didn't deserve to get anything out of the game, really. But in terms of the lack of sort of intensity and everything that was so good about the last 3 games prior to Blackburn, we sort of lacked any sort of tenacity, any real sort of want to go and get in the faces of Blackburn. And yeah, I think, listen, probably a draw would have been a fair result, but ultimately we come out the game on the back of a bad decision from a linesman and lose out on the game. I don't think there's too much more to be said, to be honest. I think we might as well move on to yesterday. Of course, Luton going into yesterday, there wasn't really too much of an indication as to whether we were going to see the likes of Azaz, Bergzorg, or anyone else for that matter coming back into the team, because as always, Carrick was very tight-lipped on illnesses and sort of updates on injuries. Of course, we got the really pleasant surprise that Azaz and Bergzorg were back into the team. Of course, Dijksteel took the place of Luke Ayling in defence. And then also Hayden Hackney appeared magically on that team sheet. And just on the point that I've just made, my goodness, it made all of the difference. And we'll get on to sort of individuals and the goals and everything. I thought Hayden Hackney was superb yesterday. Just literally the heart of everything. Not perhaps in a sort of creative aspect or an attacking aspect, but just setting the tempo, setting the standards, constantly nipping away at Hull's midfielders, and just being tenacious and being horrible to play against, and really just getting Middlesbrough on the front foot. And of course, it helps when you've got Finn Azaz playing ahead of him. But yeah, Nathan, other than the team sheet and obviously the bonus around the players that were back into the team, I think the real talking point initially should probably be the fact that we were let down by an official on Wednesday night. Were we perhaps saved a little by an official in the early stages of yesterday?
I'd say yes. Obviously, Casey Palmer plays the ball through in behind the Boro defence, and Borges and Pedro are in a race, and Neto's got hold of his shirt. I think Pedro does as well a little bit, but I think that's sort of trying to get Borges off him.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pedro hits the deck. You think, is the referee gonna blow and pull out that red card straight away? And he waves it away. Massive bonus. I wasn't necessarily impressed with Hull at all yesterday in the game. Whether us going down to 10 men would have made a massive difference, I don't know. Yeah, I think he probably should have been sent off. The only sort of case that I could make for him is that Pedro doesn't go down until it's pretty clear that the ball is definitely going through to Solberg.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, in this case, perhaps João Pedro is actually probably been a little bit too honest. And I think he can go down far earlier than what he does. And as you say, I think the only thing keeping him up is him literally trying to shake off Borges, because he's dragging him back. You can see, and they always talk about the sort of triangle on the shirt when it's pulled as to, is it an obvious pull? It's the most, for any, I don't know if any Hull fans are listening or will be watching, but for me, we've massively got away with one there. Borges should go. And yeah, as you say, look, it's hard to, I wasn't particularly impressed with Hull, but I think for me, yesterday, it wasn't necessarily Hull's attack that was the major issue. It was more so their defence. They just constantly looked at sixes and sevens, playing a right back at left back. Look, I don't know what sort of the thoughts are with the majority of Hull fans. And of course, we're looking at a place from, we're always going to be in Ryan Giles's corner. But whatever you say about Ryan Giles defensively, Cody Drama, and do you know what? He's a good right back. He's played in the Championship for numerous kind of relatively successful sides, but just play him as a right back and play Giles, because I think it's Coyle that plays right back for them. I know he's been there a while, but there was nothing really that sort of I looked at yesterday and thought, why are you shoehorning Cody Drama to play left back? Yeah, okay, he's up against Ben Doak on basically a lunchtime where Ben Doak's just decided, I'm going to have a bit of fun this afternoon. And I think most fullbacks in the division would be, again, falling to the knees and just praying to God that someone could help them out. But yeah, defensively, I thought they were dreadful. The keeper actually is an all right keeper, and perhaps worryingly enough, out of the two centre halves and the goalkeeper, and they were trying to be a little bit sort of brave with the ball at the back. The goalkeeper looks more comfortable with the ball than what the two Hull centre halves did. So, I mean, that's going to cause its own issues. And there was a few times, not that we did catch them out, but we were very close to doing so. But yeah, sort of going back to the red card incident, I don't think Hull necessarily would have kind of took the game away from us, but it undoubtedly would have changed the game in some aspect, even overloads on sort of certain parts of the pitch. And the fact that we would have had to take off an attacker as well, who that attacker would have been, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Probably Bergsorg, I imagine. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But yeah, after that, of course, Finn Azar's back in the team. And I just posted the goal last night and just simply put alongside it just the usual, because at the moment that's exactly what it is. Finn Azaz has sort of magic in his boots, really. That's all I can say at the moment. Hayden Hackney does really well, as I say, setting the tone. Hull try to clear the ball, and it's a shit clearance. That's my analysis of it. Hayden Hackney's first to win the ball back, cushions it into Azaz. Azaz sort of flicks it over the oncoming Hull defender, chops back in on his left. And it's almost, like we said last week, his signature move at the moment, that chop inside, and then he just bends the ball into the far corner, high into the net. And then we yet again see that celebration, Nathan. And I think that's hopefully going to become a fixture of just Middlesbrough going forward, because at least whilst the cold weather's on, yeah, we've got the Gyökeres sort of mask over the face. I'm seeing today that people are sort of trying to like make Enzo Fernandez's like phone call one like iconic. It's not at all, by the way. Of course, Morgan Rogers, we've had an iconic celebration before, but that's been nicked off Cole Palmer. This little sort of heat the hands up round the ball, that could be the next one that could go big, could go global.
It could, until it gets to April.
Yeah, it might look a bit weird if that's going on in April. But listen, if it brings us good form and and Finn Azaz continues playing like he is, carry on doing it, bloody on the final day of the season. If it's 30 degrees, I still want you around that ball warming them hands up.
Yeah, in August next season when we're playing Liverpool on opening day. Um, yeah, he's on fire at the minute, Azaz. You're just sort of hoping that after missing out in the week through illness that he can sort of continue where he left off last weekend, and he certainly did that yesterday. Great finish. He's on absolute fire. And yeah, for going 1-0 up in the game, look, it already should have been 1-0. Bergsorg should have scored early on in the game after Azaz played him across the face of goal. I think actually I'm trying to give him a little bit of leeway here.
I'm not sure why he's gone with his left foot, if I'm honest.
I said the same. I think that his right foot is his stronger foot anyway. Just go with that and bury it. You don't need to go with your left foot and glide it into the far corner. Already wheeling away off celebrating, I think.
He had one eye on Red Faction, just diving over them advertising boards again, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, we going 1-0 up in the game, I always felt that it would be important, and obviously it is cliche, but the first goal in the game's massive, and particularly yesterday, I thought if we score first, we'll win the game at a canter, really. Before the first goal, they were pathetic, and up until the second half, really, when they scored a goal out of nothing and they had 5 minutes, they were just dross, really. We double the lead shortly after. Dork, again, really influential. Nice to sort of see the link up from the Scottish boys. A great dink to the back post. You sort of anticipating that Conway's going to knock it across the face of goal for someone else to knock it in, but it's a great header, gets it on target, loops it into the back of the net. TC now level with Lath with that goal, and
No,
then
he's actually ahead now.
goes ahead with the second half one, doesn't he?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Go on, Nathan. I'm getting ahead of myself there.
Getting
Do
ahead.
you know? Do you know what? Right, Tommy Conway, and perhaps when you said last week about like you're nearly 23 now. Do I really want to get a photo with a footballer? I don't know what it is, Nathan, but there's something about Tommy Conway. I think he's my favourite player.
He is fantastic, isn't he? Yeah, but I'm going to be totally honest. When we were sat there in July, August time, and it comes up on a Monday evening that we've placed a bid for him, I thought, yeah, serious signing, because although he's his top goal scoring season, which he's done two seasons in a row, is 12, knowing that we create as many chances as we do, you just think you've got to fancy putting Tommy Conway up front in this Boro team. He's going to score goals. He's like Marcus Force in that instinctive type finisher. He's a natural finisher. Left foot, right foot, and head foot, as soccer M's say. Yeah, he's a bags man. Simple as that. Third in the championship goal scoring charts currently. Honestly, I don't even think it's bald. I think he'll get 20 plus.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. And the thing is, I mean, look, just touching on the goal, Doak, he gets better with sort of game by game. And I think what's really impressive now is he's starting to more so than not make the correct decision when he has the beating of a fullback. It's rare now that you actually see Ben Doak beat his fullback and then just keep his head down and sort of smash it wide, or just make the wrong decision, or not try and at least pick someone out. It's such a delicate chip to the back post, and it's a fantastic header as well, but beautifully weighted. Conway, just basically, as you say, he's a natural goal scorer. That is the sort of cold hard facts. Without a doubt, more of a natural finisher than Lath. And to be honest, it sort of creates its own, I don't want to say conundrum, but it creates its own sort of conversation now where, I mean, how fortunate of Middlesbrough to have a forward 7 days that after he scored a hat-trick to be sat on the bench. I mean, Carrick just, I know managers always say they're the best kind of decisions where you sort of, everyone's in good form, so you don't know who to select, but it is one of them where, and funnily enough, I remember kind of when we were going through that patch where we just couldn't seem to find the right mix, and we couldn't really seem to score goals, to be honest, before these last sort of 4 or 5 games. And I said, I think Boro really sort of lack, that as a collective, that group of goal scorers that, one might get 15 or 20, but the players round them that are going to chip in with 7 or 8 goals. You've now got Lath on 7, Tommy Conway on 8, Finn Azaz on 5, I think.
6.
6. Look, Doak's not scoring, but that was his 5th assist of the season yesterday. I saw Riley McGree, I think, has got 6 goal contributions this season. And yeah, okay, he's not a scorer. Bergzorg's got two in the league, 3 in all competitions.
Clarkie's got 2.
Clarkie's got 2,
He sat
exactly.
on the bench.
Yeah, and he sat on the bench. But going back to it, I've got a little bit of something that I want to bring up, and I might be totally wrong. I think we're moving towards one game, at least. It might be an experiment. It might just be something that I've picked up on later in games. Tommy Conway continues to sort of keep on drifting out left. And even yesterday, when Bergzorg come off the pitch and Latilaf was on the pitch, you had a front three of Conway coming in from the left, Azaz, and then Ben Doak. I'm now thinking, it clearly doesn't work with Conway as the withdrawn striker or secondary striker, whatever you want to call him, behind Latilaf. Are we about to see Michael Carrick try to, I don't want to say shoehorn because I'm going to put it down to just managerial excellence and sort of tactical understanding of what could come from it. But I don't think we're far away from seeing Tommy Conway playing off the left.
Possibly, possibly. I just don't.
I don't necessarily think it's the answer. I'd rather play one or the other and have Bergzorg, because again, yesterday, Bergzorg, we touched on it last week, ball carrying, major tick, actually had a really, really, really good effort saved. It was an absolute worldie from the Hull keeper where he literally just gets his arm out, goes one way. The Hull defender sat on his arse reading a paper and just hoping that he doesn't score. And to be fair, as I say, the Hull keeper makes a worldie. But yeah, I'd rather that setup, because that setup now has proved, whether it be Conway or Latilaf, if you've got Ben Doak and Bergzorg on either side of them and Finnazaz behind, they're going to create enough chances where whoever's the number 9 is going to score goals. But I mean, is this real life? Middlesbrough have got 2 strikers that are just sort of free scoring, and you almost have a pick of 2 of the best finishers or let me rephrase, 2 of the best goal scorers in the league at the moment. Like,
Yeah,
what does Michael Carrick do? Because it's wonderful, but it's also, as sort of cutting as it sounds, there's no way Emmanuel Latilaf is going to sit on the bench until January.
yeah. I think that this is going to be real sort of interesting to see what goes on throughout December. Obviously, games coming thick and fast, and I don't necessarily anticipate that one or that there is a preference between one or the other. I think that it is genuinely, we've got 2 strikers and we are going to rotate them. And look, Latilaf scored a hat-trick last week. They were both playing on Wednesday night, okay, in different roles. Latilaf had a chance on Wednesday night, didn't take it. Conway had a half chance on Wednesday night at literally the last kick of the game where Barlasser plays him in and he just sort of shimmies inside and doesn't get his shot away. And then yesterday, Latilaf's dropped to the bench after playing 60 minutes at Oxford and 60 minutes on Wednesday night, dropped to the bench yesterday. Conway takes his place and scores 2. You've got 2 players that, as Tommy Conway said in his club interview, that are just pushing each other in terms of if one comes out the team, the other one, it is literally up to them to prove that they are worthy of their place in the team. So ironically, it'll be hilarious to see Latilaf come into the team and Conway be on the bench at Burnley next
I
Friday.
said, do you know what? I said the exact same thing to my dad in the stadium yesterday. I said, you watch on Friday night when that team sheet comes out, I bet Latilaf's up top. And he said, he can't do that. Surely he can't. He's just scored 2 goals. And I said, honestly, it would not shock me at all. And I think, honestly, I know we touched on it last week, but in all seriousness, I think sometimes we will see, and we have started to see, Carrick thinking more in terms of both of their attributes as to what fits the opposition better. I think potentially Burnley defensively, look, I don't think they're by any means a side that are going to dominate the ball under Scott Parker, but they are good defensively. And, I guess just not necessarily sort of opposition specific, but you're probably going to think, oh, well, perhaps away from home, release a little bit of pressure, potential pacing behind Latilaf might be a good option. But then, how can you take Tommy Conway out the team after scoring 2 goals? It's a serious, serious dilemma that Michael Carrick's got in his hands, but a really, really nice one as well.
Yeah, 100%. Just sort of going back to yesterday's game, second half, obviously concede that daft goal, just completely out of nothing.
Dyke still lets himself down here a little
Yeah,
bit.
he does. He does. It's a Anthony Dijksteel sort of harking back to last season in a game where he comes in and makes a mistake. He gets caught underneath the ball, sort of doesn't get the header right at all. Ends up knocking it backwards. Kamara drives forward, delivers the ball, and Burstow nods in from a couple of yards out, pretty much into an empty net. Frustrating. Felt that not necessarily felt in danger, but felt that Hull would grow into the game, which they did a little bit for maybe
Yeah.
5 minute period, and then their lad on the right hand side tries to play a crossfield ball that's about 50 yards, and he just plays it straight to Dork's feet and drives forward, charges at Giles, plays a pass inside to Conway, touch, finish, takes a deflection off the Hull player, which takes it over Panda. Yeah, game wrapped up at that point. We actually had a chance before that, Dork with a header that the
Yeah.
keeper makes a good save, but he probably should score. But yeah, all in all, a comfortable win, really, Chris.
Yeah, I must say, in the end, it was definitely comfortable. But I must say, I don't know how you felt, but for the sort of 5 minutes after Hull had scored, we just kind of really dropped off a little bit, and it wasn't. It was. We weren't necessarily bad, but we kind of just allowed them to come on to us a little bit. And I don't know if it was just a little bit of nerves, or I don't know, just the obvious sort of swing in momentum from them just like almost thinking, oh my God, we've scored. We might actually have a chance of getting something from the game. And just on Dijksteel, in fairness, obviously, I don't know if it's fatigue or if it was sort of opposition specific, but I actually felt that given Kamara is really quick, Dijksteel dealt with him all afternoon. Any sort of duels that they had, he seemed to do all right, or block the cross, or recover and kind of put him off balance. And the one sort of error that he makes costs the goal, and it is frustrating because I honestly think that, and again, it might just be personal preference from the way people watch. I honestly think that Ben Doak and Dijksteel, often when they play together, they have a really, really sort of nice relationship on that right, where I think, and I noticed it in the club podcast that they brought out, where Luke Ayling, we saw how many times last season his standout attribute towards the back end of the season, and ultimately probably a large part in why he won himself a contract, he put countless balls onto Latilaf's head, getting forward, putting in crosses. And Luke Ayling said in that club podcast with Wheater and Hignett and Howson, I love playing with Doak because I don't really need to do anything now. I kind of just give him the ball and like let him sort of do what he needs to do. And actually, as I know it was partly sort of jovial, he's not just saying that he doesn't need to do anything. He has no attacking responsibility. But I think we have seen, and look, it's sort of conscious in the fact that my light's just gone out there, so I will fix that. We have seen that Ayling doesn't really bomb on as much as what he had been last season. And I think there is, not necessarily from the team, but it's almost a bit of an acceptance that, oh, well, Doak will do it. Doak will beat his man. Doak will face up the fullback. And that's fine because a lot of the time he does. But I feel like when Ayling plays, he has lost a bit of that sort of want or will to go forward and go and attack. There's the light back for anyone watching on YouTube. And yeah, I just feel like Dijksteel and Doak, and I know that, to be honest, I don't think the exact same situation that Ayling makes the mistake that Dijksteel does yesterday. I think he's possibly a little bit more defensively sound. I don't think there's much in between them, to be honest, by the way. But yeah, it's another one where there's not much between Dijksteel and Ayling for me. And I do think, and we saw it in Norwich as well, I like them two as a pairing. And I must say as well, just on the topic of defenders, you mentioned it, Clark dropped to the bench yesterday. Dale Fry comes back into the team after, I couldn't believe it. I said I thought it was 6 months, nearly 8 months out. His last start was in last February. I thought Dale Fry was fantastic yesterday, and I'm a big Dale Fry fan anyway. But for that sort of 5-10 minute spell when Hull were putting on the pressure, the amount of just clearances, just no nonsense, into Rose edge, process coming in, get something on it, or go and meet the header and just get rid of any danger. During that spell, it's Dale Fry at his best. I thought he did really well yesterday.
Yeah, pretty sort of. It was a nice game for him to come back into. Really stepping in next to Edmondson, I was sort of shocked that it wasn't Edmondson that dropped to the bench, especially with his sort of looming possible suspension if he had one more booking, which, look, all of our players escaped that yesterday. Doak, Edmondson, and Hackney all escaped that, which is very nice. One more game at Burnley to get through. But yeah, Dale Fry, nice to have him back. Another centre half option available to us, which is really important given that Rav is still nowhere to be seen. Apparently, he's back in training. But then again, I made the point to you last week, Marcus Force was being seen at the start of October and he's still being bedded in now. So yeah, we'll sort of wait and see what Dale Fry's next sort of appearances will be. I anticipate that Clark will come back in at Burnley and play alongside Edmondson as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Just I don't. Well, I do mean to interrupt because I just want to. You saying about force there's just sort of spring something in my mind. Going back to Blackburn, and I know we're sort of in the midst of discussing Hull, but in terms of substitutions, far too late on Wednesday night. And actually, I think sometimes this is still, if there was one critique of Michael Carrick, I do think he waits sometimes far, far too late in games to make game-changing substitutions. And I just wanted to bring it up because on Wednesday night, even before Blackburn had scored, it felt like something needed to change, and he waited and waited and waited, and then it was unfortunately too late. And I just wanted to put that out there, just because, look, yesterday with, as you say, it was fairly routine. We win the game, but in terms of other than the offside goal, that was one of the sort of kind of conversations that I've seen a lot of and had myself following the back of that. And look, it's a different sort of game yesterday, but going into two games where potentially it is going to be tight and you might need a game changer or something just to slightly tweak things, it is an area of Michael Carrick's management that I do think he needs to slightly, hopefully, brush up on. And I'm sure he will improve on that because he's improved throughout his tenure. But yeah, just something I wanted to touch on. And you reminded me because I was screaming out for Marcus Force to come onto the pitch on Wednesday night, which he did, but it was far too late.
Yeah, a little bit of a case of being reactive, I suppose, after Blackburn had scored, than being proactive and trying to change things to get that first goal in the game. Yeah, a little bit frustrating on Wednesday night. But anyway, forgetting Blackburn, moved on to Hull. 3 points on the board, safely and securely in those playoff places, heading into a really big week, a really, really big week. I think that this has sort of been earmarked since the fixtures come out as to, yeah, if we're in and around it then, and then we have to go to Burnley and then Leeds. Look, we'll speak about Leeds next week, but it's important that it's discussed in this game as well. It'd be massive for us if we can go to these two teams and pick up positive results. Burnley have kicked into a little bit more of a rhythm now, and it's a bit of a change from a couple of years ago with the company Burnley that we've seen in the Championship 2 seasons ago. A lot of players have sort of been and gone.
Jay Rodriguez is still in there though.
Jay Rodriguez is the mainstay.
He must
Um,
he must be 45 by now. Honestly. And I'm
he's
not saying he's a bad player by any stretch because he's one of those players where, to be fair, I think going probably a decade back now, up until the point, I think he'd done his ACL for Southampton and he was right on the verge or perhaps had just got into the England squad and was like really being considered as, oh, he's actually an absolute player that England have on our hands. And I think that sort of stunted his development and also took away from his pace. But I mean, even over the years, he scores goals, doesn't he? And he's not a bad striker to have in the Championship, especially with sort of some of the talent that they're having in around him as well.
Yeah, he's 100%. He's always good for a goal in the Championship, and obviously popped up with one yesterday in their win at Stoke. They've got a lot of attacking talent. The one that stands out to me is Osho. Really liked him in the Premier League last year before he got a sort of serious injury that kept him out for months. But quick, direct, tricky, usually makes good decisions. I think that despite having a good defensive record, I'm just looking at their defense from sort of yesterday, and I'm looking at that and thinking Dork against Humphreys, who is
A centre half by trade.
centre half playing left back because he's left footed.
Yeah.
Yeah, get at him. And do you want to know what? I think that the game will be open as well, a little bit with Burnley playing at home, and they're not necessarily going to want to sit in and let us have all of the ball at home. Yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting game. Obviously, we can't go there and make it a basketball game though. We can't do that and sort of throw bodies forward and leave ourselves open to the counter because they have the ability in the forward players to make us pay with pace on the break. And obviously, the quality of the players as well means that they're likely to take chances. I think it'll be a real interesting game, especially for the neutral, with it being on Sky on Friday night. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to seeing what we're about away from home at a top side. I think that we've only seen us play Sunderland away from home, where we hadn't necessarily clicked into gear, had we, at all?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now
And
we're into the season. I think that this is sort of a real test to see where we are.
yeah, yeah. I was just about to say West Brom. I know they've kind of gone on this ridiculous sort of run of form where they only seem to be able to draw games. But I think that and even then really we hadn't quite clicked into gear. But as you say, I think this is the real sort of test where as long as there's no sort of illnesses or flus which make their way around the dressing room yet again, we're going to have, for the most part, probably other than Vandenberg and Aidan Morris, our go-to starting 11. And yeah, I think, to be honest, in terms of from a Boro perspective, as you say, the thoughts of Doak running at Humphreys is something where I think we might get some joy out of. Other than that, though, I think there's a couple of big calls just in terms of personnel. And I think you're right. I think Clark probably will come back into the team alongside Edmondson just for that balance of the left foot. Interesting one for me. I know obviously he makes an error yesterday leading to the goal, but Ayling or Dijksteel up against Koleosho, I think pace-wise,
I think Ayling will come in for
I,
his.
I think I think Carrick trusts him more, and I do think that. But I think yesterday, and it might just have been purely fatigue, the decision, but I don't know if I'd perhaps lean towards Dijksteel. But again, as I say, I don't think there's a huge amount between them, so it wouldn't really bother me too much. I think you're likely going to see the same pair in midfield. I don't necessarily think he'll take Barlasser out for House, and obviously Hackney's going to play. And then I think other than that, really, it's Conway or Latilaf. And I think, to be honest, as much as he likes to chop and change around those two strikers, I think it would be incredibly unfair on Tommy Conway if he comes out of the team.
But I think he will. I
It,
really do.
do you know what? It would not surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I really do. I think he'll go. Your interesting one's goalkeeper if he throws the
Well,
in
yeah.
after illness,
Which
which
also, I must say, I think he will.
yeah, I think he would as well. Although it would be harsh on Bryn. I think in two of his three games he's impressed me. The Blackburn one, he concedes that Campbell goal which was offside, but I think you should still save it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I can't get it out of my head in stoppage time when he passed the ball out of play from just a simple pass.
That was my cue to walk out on Wednesday night.
Yeah,
As soon as he played that ball, I was gone.
yeah. But in the other two games, he's been pretty good. And yeah, I think he'll go Ayling, Edmondson, Clark, Borges, Hackney, Barlasser, Dork, Azaz, Bergzorg, and Lath up front. I think Conway will drop to the bench and then come on late in the game. But yeah, by all accounts, very excited for Friday night and just to see what we're about. Nice. We're in the playoffs again, safely in them now. A big week ahead. Two massive tests, but all eyes on Burnley first on Friday night, and hopefully we come through that getting a positive result away from home at a very difficult place to go, and also with a full complement of players with Dork, Hackney, and Edmondson all being on best behaviour on Friday night.
Please don't get booked, lads. Honestly, just one more game, just one more game, and then you can have a rest after Leeds, or get booked in the Leeds game if you really want to. I know we've got big games coming up after that, but these feel slightly bigger, don't they? Yeah, I think, to be honest, there's still huge question marks about Boro's sort of ability to go that one step beyond. I think no one's doubting that Middlesbrough have enough to be within the playoffs now. I think the questions still remain about going that extra sort of few points or few steps forward in terms of really sort of getting in amongst Sheffield United, Burnley, Leeds. There's no better way to go and say, yeah, we might quite fancy this actually than going and beating Burnley on Friday. And I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I just hope that, and I don't really have any kind of major worry about it. I just hope we don't see a sort of revert back to a Sunderland type performance where Burnley just go, well, we know the blueprint. Just let Middlesbrough have a load of the ball and they won't know what to do with it. And actually, I was just finally, I was listening to the You Are My Boro podcast this week with Dom and Scott Wilson. And Scott Wilson pulled up a kind of couple of games where I think for the most part, a lot of the games that Boro struggle in, they have the majority of the possession by quite a considerable distance. And given Burnley's defensive record, you do think, will they have one eye on that Sunderland game? And I know it's a different Middlesbrough side from them, but I honestly think that is more of a test if Burnley just go have the ball.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting to see whether they do that. If they do, fair play. Like we have to find the answer.
We're going to have to, if we want to really in and amongst those top sort of higher echelons of the division, we are ultimately going to have to find a way other than just simply beating teams up and scoring 4 or 3 or 5, because those are the games which you look back of all the points that we chucked away this season. It's all games that have been basically, we don't really know how to sort of break teams down unless they play into our hands and try and have a go at us first.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do. Really, I don't necessarily anticipate that they will sit in, but if they do, as mentioned, we have to find an answer. We have to find a solution to this problem that we have, which is breaking teams down that just say, we're just here to sit in. And all of a sudden, it's minute 75. They've got a lot of sort of belief that they can go and nick something at the
I,
other end.
I
And
think
they do.
there is so much evidence to suggest that Middlesbrough will give you at least one chance to score. And if they're not scoring and they do give you that one chance, you've just got to take it.
100%. 100%.
But obviously, the onus is on Middlesbrough to go and score 7 first. So it doesn't matter if they ship you a goal by accident. Yeah, like you say, Nathan, Friday night live on Sky. It's going to be one of those where I'm sure I'm not actually in attendance. I'm going to be sinking into the sofa, probably hiding behind a cushion at some points. Just feeling physically sick as soon as I see the Sky Sports intro for the game. But yeah, that's those wins when you have them on kind of live on Sky. When they do come along, they always feel that extra bit special. So everything's crossed. We're really into the sort of thick of it now. Of there's not really a day goes by when there's not a football match on, and I mean, of course, I'm sure you do. I'm sure most people listening absolutely love it. If Middlesbrough want to go out and lay a marker, this is the perfect opportunity, these next two games, to say to the rest of the division, yeah, we can go and stick 15 goals past a load of teams in the bottom half, but we can also go and really show what we're about against some of the better teams in the division. And there's nothing more than I would love than to really ruin Chris Wilder's season. So, please, Boro.
Come on, Boro.
Yeah, simple as that. The nerves have already started to build in, so that I've gone a little bit sort of shy of words, to be honest. So we'll leave it there, Nathan. If you have enjoyed, as always, please do like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, audio listeners, please do leave a rating and a review. And I believe you can also subscribe on your audio platforms as well. So why not do that whilst you're at it? Yes, Boro travelled the Turf Moor. Let's hope that we get one of those Michael Carrick live on Sky fist bumps into that away end at full time. Fingers crossed. Thank you ever so much for watching and listening again. That has been another episode of the Boropolis podcast.